Welcome to the Saturday Night Cigar Lounge.
A very nice and cool, at least here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, very nice and cool Saturday night. Perfect time for Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. I am your host, Taylor. I would say I'm running solo, but that would not be true because Katrina Jorgensen is here. Hello, Katrina. How are you?
Hey, Taylor. It's good to be here.
Always good to have you on. Actually, I think this is the first time you've been on the Cigar Lounge. So
It is impressive that we haven't managed to make this jump previously. I mean, we've only been on each other's shows like forever, so I don't know how I missed this one. But I'm here now, so...
Yes, and before we even get started, before I introduce one of our guests for the evening, I need to play this just to cover myself.
This is the Pint-Sized Pundit, and I am here to tell you that anything Taylor says on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge is his opinion and his opinion only. He does not speak for his employer, his employer's employer, or anyone else. He especially doesn't speak for Liz unless she says so.
Just have to be careful. It's nice to have the Pint-Sized Pundit weigh in on issues. And also here tonight, I'm very excited about this. As excited as I am that Katrina is here, I'm also very excited to have Chuck Dixon, the co-creator of Bane and one of my favorite comic book authors. And I guess I need to add author now to that list. Chuck, welcome in. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm very well, Taylor. Thank you.
I bet it's a little bit warmer where you are, hopefully.
Yes, it is. I can brag about the Florida weather.
Yeah,
that's my pride.
What I loved a couple of weeks ago was a comment that was made. I guess it was a meme that kind of went around. That went around Facebook, how everybody hated Florida because they were in the 80s while everybody else was in the teens.
we also had a cooler summer than everybody else, just to rub it in.
Yeah.
What part of Florida?
Tampa.
Oh, okay. I was going to say. I lived in Fort Lauderdale for a year and a half, and the summers were not cooler.
Yeah, but everybody else had a record, heat waves and things like that. So actually, most of Florida was cooler this last summer. So
it's very nice.
We got bragging rights 365.
So true.
See, there you go. And from what I believe the people in the chat are saying, if anybody wants to confirm, actually, Liz, who is taking the night off, Liz, we hope you feel better. Says that apparently I managed to get my show going. So there we go. Yes, folks, I managed to get my own show going. Somehow that
without
happened.
the magical Liz, it is possible.
Without the magic of Liz, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But one reason why Chuck, you are on is something that I thought was really cool that I only found out about about 4 days ago, which was you have adapted or helped adapt a book by Amity Schlels called The Forgotten Man, A New History of the Great Depression. I own the the non-graphic edition version, and I haven't read it yet. But I have already pre-ordered the graphic version of it. And so, Chuck, how did you get involved in this?
Well, Amity got it in her head that she wanted to do a comic book version of her book, which is just an astounding look at the Great Depression. And it reads like fiction, even though it isn't. And somehow her agent ran into my agent, one of the agents I use at a party, and Amity didn't know anything about comics. Her agent didn't know anything about comics. So my agent said, "Look, there's only one writer in comics that could help you with this," and it was me. And she said that my politics were in line, and I had the craft level. And from that point, I talked to Amity quite a few times, and my choice for artist was Paul Ravoche. It was like my first and only choice, and it turned out Paul's politics fell in line. He was very interested in the project, and he's spent the last few years on this thing because it turned into like this massive book. So we went off from there.
Boy, that sounds like kismet almost. I don't know if there's any other way. I don't know if there's any other way to put it.
Yeah, it was just like a chance meeting, and it just, I got into it. So.
And I guess you have to have read the regular book
many times, and I still love it. So
now did you read it before you got involved in this?
I was aware of Amity from her writing in the Wall Street Journal. I was a big admirer of hers, but I had not read this book yet. And but once I read it, it's a daunting book because it's got this enormous ensemble cast. But it's so fascinating, and my biggest job was to adapt it and keep as much of her language as possible because her writing is just so beautiful. I didn't want to be messing with it.
And she's a fantastic writer. The only book of hers I've read is the Coolidge book, and that needs to be read. Yeah. There's not enough Coolidge in this book, unfortunately. He wasn't responsible for the Great Depression, so he's not much of a character. Yeah, but she makes characters out of people that really have never gotten the limelight thrown on them, or the kitchen lights turned on them. Characters like Rex Tugwell and Wendell Willkie, who is usually a punchline to a joke from the 40s, is pretty much comes out the hero of this book. When it's interesting that they have gone ahead and done, or they're doing a graphic version, because it's really something that I think needs to be done a lot more often. Is turning regular books into comic books, graphic novels, whatever you want to call them. What do you think? Is that genius? Is it not genius?
Well, I think as an introduction, I adapted The Hobbit into a graphic novel years ago, and it's this perennial bestseller, and I didn't know it would take off the way it did, and it doesn't serve as a replacement for reading the novel, but it's an introduction for people that might not, are daunted by prose or whatever, so they get to look at pretty pictures and then get involved in the story, and then hopefully they'll want to move on and read the novel. Same thing with Forgotten Man. The graphic novel is gorgeous. Paul Ravoche's artwork is just extraordinary, and it really puts the what can be very difficult material across. But you read this and you're going to want to read Amity's original as well. So and another thing is, Amity told me that a surprising number of universities and colleges use graphic novels as textbooks. And they were very anxious to get their hands on this once we were done with it. So that kind of surprised me, but, there you go.
It's too bad. Too bad they don't use more Bane, right?
Yeah, well, I don't think Bane has a whole lot to teach us.
If you watched Dark Knight Rising, he had plenty to teach us. Yeah, how to mismanage a city, I guess. Yeah. Although, I guess technically you could just look at, New York sometimes. You could look at Chicago sometimes.
Certainly Detroit, yeah.
Yeah, Detroit's the number one. I am going to give Rahm Emanuel a couple of props for some of the anti-union stuff he's done. But when you have your pick for Chicago Public School CEO talking about the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
I go find something else to do. It's probably the best way to do that. This isn't the first time that a right-wing, I hate to use the term right-wing, conservative-esque book has been adapted. Even though Ayn Rand wouldn't be considered a conservative at all, she's obviously an objectivist. But
Right.
Steve Ditko kind of did this with Atlas Shrugged, or at least planned on doing it with Atlas Shrugged. Is that something
Yeah.
that needs to be done a lot more?
Yeah, I think so, because as I said, the prose books can be daunting, and this is a way to get an audience that may have never looked at this material to at least look at it, and it's a different way to get it across. Because the original book is written so seamlessly that it was hard to get in to adapt it, which is why I basically did the first run through adaptation, and then Amity worked closer with Paul. To do the finish, because my first draft was about 180 pages, and I think the book is about 250 or above now.
Yeah.
So it's huge for a graphic novel. So it's about twice or more the length of a normal graphic novel. But there were so many things. She just didn't want to miss anything, and and there was so much material there. But it's so engaging. You follow the lives of like 6 different people through the Depression, and it gives you the whole picture in ways that it really opens your eyes. The book is so prescient that I had to put it down every once in a while and go, "My God, this is what's happening now."
Yeah.
We're living through the Great Depression again, with a whole different crowd.
Yeah.
And they're making all the same mistakes.
Ain't that the truth? Katrina, you have rogue hair.
This is true.
Do you want to comment at all?
Well, I think it's interesting that you said there haven't been any conservative principled books turned into graphic novels, but I don't think that there's been that many. Honestly, this may be awful. There haven't been that many great conservative fiction stories, or that you have to dig a little bit. I guess you could maybe think Ender's Game might have some underlying principles of it's dystopia, so it's kind of like the opposite of, but they made that into a graphic novel or graphic online, whatever it was, so you can see pictures of it.
Things like 1984 and Brave New World certainly could.
I suppose.
Make
See,
that
like
cool.
it seems like there's more books saying like this is bad if we don't fix things without specifically saying what we should do. There's lots of good dystopias out there. I heard an interesting argument for Hunger Games being a conservative principled book. I thought that was kind of cool. That'd be a cool graphic novel. That's my only real thought. I think this whole discussion is fascinating, and now I absolutely want to go get this book, but because I have not read it. That's my weigh in right there.
This is kind of and I talked to a couple of weeks ago. We had Dan Jolly on to discuss Bloodhound, and the conversation that we had was, you don't necessarily want to beat people over the head, at least in comic book form. You don't want to, and I tend to feel the same way about book form, unless you know it's going to be a purely philosophical book.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it from a nonfiction possibility, that opens everything up.